Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fearless Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Lynn, and today I am very happy to have my brand new friend. Actually, we've been friends before, but you're now my in-person, real-life friend, Gennady. Please introduce yourself. You're an accordion player from Moldova, living in Austria, and you have your podcast, which I was thrilled to be on last season. Yeah, for the sake of our audience, first of all, welcome. Thank you for being here, and I would love to hear about you.
Michelle, thanks for the invitation. It's really great to be here. And yeah, we've met in Berlin like 5 days ago, maybe, but we've been in contact for a very long time. So I'm really excited to be on your show and to talk to you. And yeah, I'm originally from the Republic of Moldova. I lived for almost 10 years in Italy, where I did my bachelor's and master's degrees as an accordionist, as an accordion performer. Later, I moved a lot, and now I landed, well, 6 years ago, I landed in Austria and kind of stayed here. So, yeah, I have lots of different interests. I also have a podcast that kind of started in the beginning as a podcast dedicated to everything accordion. So it's called Everything Accordion. But at some point, I felt that my other interests were kind of coming out. So I decided to also do a Career Friday series where I talk to musicians, where I talk to you. And you were a guest on that series about the different aspects of self management and the career of a musician. I also have a blog where I tackle different topics about marketing, finances, career, and so on and so on. So, yeah, really excited to be here and to talk to you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for sharing all that. I think it was on your podcast like over 2 years ago because you reached out and we didn't have our podcast yet. That's why I didn't invite you onto mine. And we just had a really nice conversation. And I know you know also Bernhard Karras. Did you do the Be Your Own Manager program with him? Anything with him?
Yeah, actually, my journey started in 2020 or 2021, I think, but I enrolled in the online course of Be Your Own Manager. And
Yeah.
there it started kind of all opening up because up until that point, like I believe 99% of musicians was kind of roaming through the fog, through the darkness, trying to feel my way through as a musician. And then thanks to that course, the fog started lifting up and I started seeing more clearly. So I kind of started documenting this journey. But Bernhard has been a real inspiration. And yeah, ever since I'm really interested in in this topic.
Which of his courses did you do?
Well, I did the base course. I think it was like 12 webinars, and then I did intensive sales course.
So everybody listening, Bernhard Karras, he has the Be Your Own Manager and like cannot highly recommend him enough. I'm currently doing his coaching program actually. I'm flying to
Hmm.
Vienna in 3 days to go finish the second course that I've done with him for coaching. I'm working towards getting credits with the International Coaching Federation and he's offering this I saw it come through in the newsletter. Actually, this is why you need to read newsletters, people, because I just saw he was like, "Yeah, I'm offering this coaching course, the Vienna coaching course, and you can get credits." And becoming an ICF coach was something that I've thought about for a long time. And I was like, what? Bernhard's doing this? And so I've been to Vienna now twice in person. The rest of it has been online. And I've learned so much about being a coach, the ethics behind it, the ideas behind it, what the International Federation is looking for. Bernhard is fantastic. I'm going to get him to come on the podcast. He's promised me he'll come. But for everybody listening, like, please check out his courses. He's got sales courses, marketing stuff. He's the former CEO of the Vienna Opera. He went into Silicon Valley. He's a former baritone as well. And he's just like an amazing person. We love Bernhard. So I think that's how you and I also connected, Gennady, because I knew when you had invited me onto your podcast, I had heard your episode with Bernhard. So yeah, that's really cool. And then we had the awesome chance to meet this week in Berlin. I didn't know that you were coming to Classical Next. For everybody listening, we went to the Classical Next conference, which is one of the largest classical music conferences in the world.
Yeah.
And I was just minding my own business, walking along, and then Gennady's like, Michelle. I was like, oh my gosh, what? This is so crazy. Because I don't know, did you know that I was coming in advance?
Well, I am listening to your podcast, and I think on one of the
Oh,
episodes you mentioned something about going to Berlin. I was like, Berlin next week.
thank
What's happening
you.
in Berlin? I was like, okay, yeah. So I was confident that we will meet. So I kind of
That's
cheated there a
amazing.
little bit.
Okay, cool. No, I was just like, glad that I recognized you. I think the fear is always like because I'm on stories so much. People who don't use stories like that, they'll obviously recognize me immediately, and then I'm like, I don't know who you are, but I want to be really polite. But with you, I knew obviously immediately. It was so great to connect with you, and then we ended up hanging out like most of at least every day I saw you for a chunk of time. So I wanted to have you on immediately because I need someone to debrief with. I mean, for me, the conference was amazing, but it was like a lot. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts, your experiences. First of all, if you maybe want to share, as a freelancer, you decided to invest and go into this, and I think you paid like 250 or something like that, plus your travel and accommodations and all that stuff. So just to get in the right mindset of like, can you explain to everybody what you knew? Like, okay, this is an opportunity that I need to be there.
Look, I am in this lucky position and privileged position towards which I worked to be able to afford certain investments in my career and a certain type of strategic actions. So I knew about this classical next conferences since I think 2022 or something. But
Okay,
for some reason, I saw that all of the guests were managers of major labels, managers of
exactly.
orchestras, CEOs of venues, like big organizations. And somehow I thought that maybe it wasn't for me. But then at one point I decided, well, you know what? I think we talked about this on my episode, on my podcast when you were a guest. But I decided like I would start investing into myself and into my career a certain amount, or I would attend certain conferences and seminars per year. So this year I'm planning on attending two. One I
Cool.
already attended, and yeah, so I decided to give it a shot and see what happens. Also, because increasingly I believe more and more that the network, our network, is actually uh, one of the most important things. I have heard on a different podcast from a businessman. It sounds kind of cheesy, but it's kind of true. Your network is your net
Net
worth.
worth. Yes,
So
I've heard it
when
too.
you know people, when you get to know people, people get to know you, and it's always easier to accept something from a person that you know, or it's easier to kind of talk to or connect or even create something together with someone who you know and hopefully trust as well. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. I know there were 1,500 people. I mean, luckily, I had a friend send me the application to go speak at the conference. He's like, "I'm sure you know about this, but just so you know, they're doing open calls for speaking applications." And I was like, "I've never heard of this." So that was really lucky that he sent it to me and threw in an application, and I got to speak on artist branding. But I feel like I missed a lot of the conference because there was so much happening. I mean, what you're describing is it's kind of like a trade show. So there are booths set
mhm.
up in a huge event center, and then there are cinemas. There are like 5 or 6 cinemas, and in each movie theater, there's a presentation going on basically simultaneously. So there was stuff a lot about AI, a lot about funding cuts. There was a lot about diversity, inclusivity. That was basically the keynote speeches around that as well. How was it for you? What did you pick up? What did you glean? And then, of course, every evening there were like performances. I mean, it was a lot. It was amazing, but yeah, it was just like, this is why I need you. I need to debrief and process like what did we just experience?
Sure. No, I mean, congratulations. I'm sorry I missed your talk, but that's great that you kind of jumped into this and went. I don't know if it's out of your comfort zone because you're still teaching and you're also organizing webinars. So you are kind of in your comfort zone, but of course, it's a different feeling when you're at this huge event, right?
Do you know, like the
So,
most exciting thing
yeah.
for me was I had this clicker because they like
Hmm.
I was supposed to be at a round table with 8 people, and then the second day there was so much interest. Also, I was kind of just inviting people. I was like, "Oh, you should come to my session," and so then I was like, "Can I actually get a bigger space for this thing?" And they're like, "Oh, we had a cancellation in the cinema. You can go into one of the movie theaters." I'm like, this is a dream. So then they put my slides on the movie screen, and I had this clicker. I felt like I was doing a TED talk. It was super cool. So yeah, thanks for
Nice.
pointing that out. I was loving it.
Yeah, no, great. Well, in terms of things happening a lot, I remember I experienced something similar when I went to the Darmstadt Ferienkurse for new music, the famous courses of contemporary music. At that time, the courses were, I think it was 2016, the courses were almost 3 weeks long. And I remember after 8 days, 9 days, it was a Sunday, I really couldn't take it anymore. So I was like, okay, I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to hear anyone. It's just like really, and after that experience, yeah, because there were so many things happening all at once, but here I saw everything and everything clashing, a lot of interesting conversations, conferences, and I just said, well, you know what, I will choose the ones that I'm more interested in and just let go of the other things because you can go to any of these conferences but you cannot go to all of them. And also, a very cool thing happened because I met and got to know some new people, some new musicians, and actually we kind of had this thing that we would meet after maybe a couple of hours and would go, "Oh, which conference did you go? Okay, oh, I went to this conference. Was it interesting? Yeah, they talked about this and this and this. Where did you go?" So we kind of three or four people who we basically went to all of the conferences and just got sort of a summary or the main points of different conferences. But yeah, if I were to think, okay, I need to go here, I need to go there, and run around, I would just feel really overwhelmed and yeah, not enjoy the experience as much. So
That sounds like a really
that's
good strategy. You to like kind of divide and conquer. Like, okay, you go here and I go there. I know I had a friend come with me as well. Actually, Aida, she was my former assistant for the Fearless Artist, and she was first of all, she's like, okay, I'll be your content creator all week. So she was filming as I was presenting and stuff. But then we did split a couple times, and she went to a different talk. Or, you just get stuck up by the booths going to visit each booth and seeing where people from. I connected with a ton of Canadians. Actually, I did a summer program when I was, I think, 16 years old in New Brunswick. And the artistic director of that festival was at Classical Next. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. It's been like, I don't know, 15, 20 years. They gave me a Canada pin. I was so excited. Like,
oh, that's where that was from. Okay.
yes, meeting Canadians in Berlin. They were all there, and just going from booth to booth to try and get connected. I think it sounds like you had a good strategy. My strategy was to line up podcast guests. So I was good. I didn't really aim for a number, but I think I have 8 people who are going to come on the podcast from the conference.
Nice.
And then another thing was to have as many people come to the mentoring session and to give them all 2 things, and you have one of them. Everybody was getting a one-on-one, and everybody else got yes. Okay, if you're
I'm a
not
proud
watching this
owner
on
of a
YouTube,
tote bag. We're thriving artists, not starving artists. It's
we're
actually the
thriving
design is very
artists.
nice.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much. I'm really proud of these tote bags. If you're not watching this on YouTube, then Gennady just held out a really beautiful tote bag. That's our merch. You can get your own on our website or join our mastermind, and then you get a free one. Yeah, those were my 2 goals. So I have 8 new podcast guests, and a bunch of people got tote bags, and they were actually excited about them. So that was a win for me. Okay, so what are some of the talks that you heard in these 3 days that stuck out to you? What were some of the ideas that were being shared that you were like, yeah, this is cool?
Well, first of all, I noticed that, of course, it's, the topic of diversity and inclusion is very big, and also AI. I heard more conferences and also assisted at different presentations of different new platforms and applications of AI, which I found very exciting, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's happening there. And I also will contact and invite them on the podcast to discuss a bit
Yeah.
more and
Okay.
kind of to talk about these applications.
Okay. I'm gonna
So
be tuning
yeah,
into that. So wait. Which side
yeah.
of AI are you on then? You're like you're for it. You're with it. I hear a lot of pushback. Like there are people who say
Hmm.
like it's bad for the environment, or like what about ethics, or is it lazy to use, or I just there's a lot of people with concerns. Also, it makes mistakes. I mean, one after I went to that presentation is the same one as you did, and it was basically 5 German tech founders talking about their
Hmm.
startups and how they're using AI to first of all like analyze customer data, concert goer data, and they can pull up information like right now. If you can tell me the top 5 highest sold concerts from last season.
Hmm.
You can speak to it in normal language, is how they were presenting it, rather than having to use those like, what are the filters when you put in
Hmm.
"show me all audiences except those." You
Yeah,
have to be
yeah.
trained in this. But now with AI, you can just talk to it like a regular, let's say, person. Natural language is what they say, and then it'll just pull up the answers for you. He was also showing us how they were applying for funding for Classical next year. It's in 2026 in Budapest, and he was using AI to like write his funding application and just like showing us in real time like what he was telling it, like based on the prompts he was giving it. But that was really interesting.
Yeah,
Because
well,
I was kind of like feeling like, is this
mhm.
allowed? Like, are we okay with this? Like, yeah, we're just watching it generate
Yeah,
like.
it kind of feels a little bit like cheating and a little bit like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's still, for most part, it's still a taboo. I actually ran a poll on my Instagram account of the podcast if the followers ever used or are using AI. And more or less half uses it, more or less half doesn't use it. Of course, I had only 20 people reply, so it's not a good statistic. But yeah, there is a pushback. Of course, it's new technology. We still haven't caught up to all the different ethical and moral questions about the use of AI, and also with in terms of royalties and copyright and so on and so forth. So it's still growing. Well, in the case of AI, I'm on the side of it's a tool, it's a very efficient tool if you hone your skills and use it. Um, I talked, well, of course, I teach to kids and also teenagers, and some of the teenagers tell me that they, to kind of accelerate the process of homework, they're using some of the AI tools. And that's something I'm against. Why?
Yeah.
Because I see AI, I want AI to be my assistant. So
Mm.
I don't want to delegate my thinking to it, but if it can learn from my way of, let's say, for example, writing captions for or writing a copy for a podcast episode, you know, as much as I love doing podcast episodes and recording them, one of the most tedious things, which I really, yeah, well, one of the reasons why I wouldn't do podcast is the editing part and writing part and publishing part. If
Right.
I were to have an assistant, as an AI assistant, that would do that for me or with me, I'm all in for it. And yeah, I actually wrote also some applications. Of course, I'm always correcting, I'm always checking, editing. So, in terms of boosting productivity, I'm all in for it. In terms of other issues, no. I mean, it's a really gray area because the technology is still so new and it's developing right now. So yeah, but I feel that using it can, not that it can give you an advantage, but using a new technology is useful in many ways. And
Yep.
I mean, just use it as a tool, just like our smartphone or social media.
Yep.
If the social media drags you in and takes over your entire social life, maybe there is something to be done about that. Same goes for AI. If AI takes over all your thinking, maybe you should consider your AI use. So,
Yep.
yeah.
I appreciated that they were quite open. They were also very excited in that presentation, showing the possibilities for going forward. And yeah, I think they handled the pushbacks quite well. I agree with you. I think using it as an assistant, because either I pay my assistant to write my podcast newsletters that go out every week, or she uses, like, we
Hmm.
train the GPT about how we would word things, and then we check it. We're still the ones putting it out, the ideas. I mean, we're still the ones having the conversation. But yeah, it's interesting. And their biggest thing was, 20 years ago, people were arguing about if you need a website. And then 10 years ago, people are arguing about if you need Instagram. I mean, even still now, some musicians are like, oh, should I use Instagram for professional uses? If you're listening to this and you're not using Instagram professionally as a musician, please start, first of all. And second of all, DM me because I will help you. But yeah, so they were like, you can decide right now how you want to view AI. Like, it's the same thing, just the next step.
Yeah, I mean, there's a really great podcast done by Tristan Harris. I think his name's Tristan Harris. Well, Tristan, who he did the movie for Netflix, Social Dilemma. And he does a really great work. I think the podcast is called Your Undivided Attention. And he has every single week or every 2 weeks different guests talking about the use of AI, the different challenges, the regulatory questions. And if you're someone who is interested in this topic, go and check it out because it's really, I mean, there are two camps, right? Because you have Silicon Valley, and this will become a tech podcast. You have Silicon Valley that is racing towards releasing this new god, this new technology. And you have the regulators that are saying, okay, look, we have one chance with this because before we had this thing with social media, and we can argue the value of it, the harm it has done, but also the value it has brought. Again, a tool, depends on how you use it. But this time around, AI knows how to develop itself, it knows how to perfect itself, and it will be better, not worse. So we need to be very careful about how we are
Mm-hmm.
using AI. I mean, I went to one of the presenters and I asked them how do they feel about memorizing all of the chats because I deactivated that function simply because I don't want it to learn all about me. It will eventually at one point anyway. but I'm always very careful about what kind of information I'm giving it, what kind of prompts I'm giving it, and yeah, trying to stay as neutral as possible without the use of the memory function. So yeah, it's a huge
Good for
debate, but
you.
I think just dipping your toes into it, trying stuff out, also just for fun, experimenting with it, just like people started experimenting with Instagram. Oh, what's this filter? Oh, what's this post? Okay, how can I follow this? How can I do that? So
Yep.
in my opinion, that's about. What are some of your takeaways from this conference?
Well, I wanted to talk to you next about the strategy for networking because I know when
Mm.
we met, I mean, we made like an instant friendship because we have met online and developed a collegial friendship relationship first. So I wanted to just kind of make mention of everybody again who's not using social media strategically in terms of connecting with people so that when you do meet them in person, it's like you've already jumped 10 levels of the getting to know you. Like instantly we could connect, we could share ideas. It was just very very easy to get the ball rolling in that sense. So I know you were mentioning the importance of why you came to this conference. You said that you wanted to invest in yourself, you wanted to come to 2 events a year. I think that's a great thing to kind of have a goal around. How is it for you to strategically network at these things, because we're meeting there's like 1,000 people kind of milling around. How do you approach these things? I noticed my elevator pitch got a lot better. I got a
Hmm.
lot more confident by the end. I even pitched myself to the A&R lady from Deutsche Grammophon because I heard that they were talking about something with artist branding, and I just like walked up to her. Okay, to be honest, I had to do a lap and take a couple. Oh, I think I ran into you at that moment, right? Because you were like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "I'm trying to get the courage to talk to the Deutsche Grammophon lady."
And as soon as she was free, like from talking to someone, you flew away. You're like, God. In the section, sorry, I'll be back. She just
I
ran.
like I like ran after her and then had to pretend like I wasn't running after her and like look cool, right? I don't know if it worked, but anyway, yeah. What was your strategy for this? Because it is overwhelming. Yeah.
It is. It is. And I don't know about you. From what I see as a personality type, you're quite extroverted. I'm the opposite. I'm an introvert. So, I would stay like in the middle of the room and I'll feel comfortable with people around me, but just like not talking to me. But of course, that's not the purpose of this event. So, I said, well, I will do one thing, which will be just be interested in the people I'm talking to. Of course, I also did laps around and like, okay, I would like to talk to maybe this stand or maybe to representatives of, I don't know, the Nordic Council or I don't know, the Italian associations and so on.
Yep.
So yeah, and at one point, I remember, I think with one stand, I just counted up to five because I've heard this tactic somewhere. Like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go. Hello, my name is, and you start
Oh wow.
kind of doing that interaction. Also because I went to this event, which was basically you had to send an email with an interest organized by the Australian
Yeah.
Council. I
You
told you
went to
about
the
that.
speed dating thing. Tell everybody on the
Yeah.
on the show because I was kind of like, oh, I would have loved to be at that. So you had a long table. Yeah, you should just tell it.
Yeah, basically we had a very long table, and I hope any Australians who were there listening, I hope it's not a secret, but I let the cat out of the bag. So I didn't
Your
sign
secret
any
society. Yeah.
non-disclosure agreements, so I can talk
Did you
about
do
this
any
freely.
spit handshakes?
Well, this is a separate episode of the podcast,
Okay,
but
okay, okay. We'll have.
for subscribers only. Follow us on Patreon.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Exactly. That's good.
so yeah, basically it was this. It was a long table. So basically, the members of the Canadian, UK, and Australian organizations, artists, and so on were on one side. The rest of the world was basically on the other side. So we had 5 minutes to sit, talk to one representative from one of those countries, and kind of present something, pitch something, get to know them. After 5 minutes, move one seat to the left. So by the end of that, I had a sore throat because we were shouting, all of us.
Oh
Like,
man.
I don't know, it was 50 people, and of course, talking over 1 hour, it was really not ideal. So we should definitely work on that. But the main idea is, we are here to do this selling buying thing you know
Mm.
so it was a very different environment because normally you wouldn't want to seem too salesy. You would really kind of organically try to approach something, and here it was really like, okay, what do you have, what do you do, I have this festival and we do this, we do that. What do you do? Oh, do you have an ensemble? Oh, do you play with an orchestra? How's the funding there? And, all of these things. So it was really very direct, which is very,
Transactional.
very weird, very eye-opening in a sense, but at the same time, you see that we're all in the same boat. So
Mm.
somebody feels more comfortable, somebody feels less comfortable. I mean, so, and I think one thing that you learn with these kinds of events is, I mean, nothing happens if somebody doesn't want to talk to you, or maybe if you're dismissed after like 2 minutes, because it happens on a personal level. I've had people I wanted to talk to, the conversation fell after 1 minute, and we're like, okay, and you survived, and you move on. So, as scary as it might seem before you do that, it's just normal. It's human interaction. So yeah, I mean, I try to be like on my podcast, to try and be interested in the person that I'm talking to, because
Yep.
of course there's barriers sometimes, like, oh my god, well, what is he going to sell me? Does he have something like some pitch or anything? And when they see or hear that, it's just a conversation, then we're kind of a bit more relaxed. So in terms of networking, I always try to find some common denominator, maybe an acquaintance, maybe a person that we know together.
Yes. Very good.
Then, if I followed them or looked something up before interacting with them, but there you go more towards strategical networking. So, if you're really interested in a company or in something, that's a good strategy to do your own research and kind of get to know what we're doing. So, instead of just walking up and say, "Oh, hey, I have this project with a singer that I would really like to pitch you," and they never did anything with singing, you know. So that's an
Right.
obvious no. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
other terms, just have conversations. You never know.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I'm glad you're sharing this because I was going to just kind of offer a little template because I also walked up to some people that normally I'd be super intimidated by, like one of the heads of, I can't remember which organization, but he was presenting on how higher music education is influencing the industry, and he was leading the talk of, 250 people in the audience. I thought he did an excellent job. So of course, I walk up, and at the beginning, I was saying that I was from Codarts, Rotterdam, because I thought maybe that would give some more authority. Like I'm on faculty at a university, but then I was like, wait, that's not why I'm here. Like I'm here to bring the fearless artist and its message. So I just started like practicing, like Michelle Lynn, the fearless artist, and so one thing, what you're saying is, first of all, be interested in the other person. Yes, get your name rolling off, like your name, your company, so that people hear it over and over. You want that branding. You like everything accordion, the podcast, and then finding that link in common, like just telling them why you're talking to them as soon as you can, because then that helps them be like, oh, because their brain is thinking like, what does this person want? They're wasting my time, or they're using my time, or whatever. So as soon as you can say that link in common, or what you want, or something you appreciate. So for me, I said, I highly appreciated how you facilitated this talk, and here's what I wanted to share. And then if you can get one step going forward, like either you say like you're going to connect with them on LinkedIn, or he mentioned another conference that's happening in the higher education realm and asked if I was going to that, and I mentioned another contact. So just to kind of wrap up the conversation, then it's like, okay, great, nice to connect with you. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Boom. It was like 3 minutes, but then you've stated who you are, you've stated the point in common, you've shared the exchange of ideas, and if you follow up with them on LinkedIn, um, then they're going to remember you. So for me, I felt like I kind of found a rhythm with like how to introduce myself, connect, and then get out without it being this drawn out, awkward, like, oh no, now what do I say? So that helped
Mm,
me. And I know you said I'm an extrovert, but like still approaching people who are of a higher status is still always going to be a little bit intimidating, I think. But by the end,
yeah,
it got a lot easier.
yeah, sure. I mean, of course, we want to be someone and kind of to belong to where we're going towards. So if we're, I don't know, going towards being published by Decca or Deutsche Grammophon, we just don't want to be like some random artist, right? We want to be like, oh, I'm representing this or I'm doing this.
Yes.
And sometimes I feel that, and that was a point before with me, for example. Sometimes we feel like this interaction is all or nothing. We put so much expectation into this talk, into this interaction, that we might go a bit over, do a bit too much. It's just one of the
Yes.
touch points. So if you talk and I will, for example, I went to this conference, Opus XX, which is basically a platform which will be with AI, and it will suggest women composers for your program. And for example, you can say, okay, I'm aiming at presenting a program with for late romantic music. I would love to have a woman composer in the program. And it looks up, that. So I went to the presenters and I talked to them, just really like saying it's a really great idea, because I was thinking about broadening also my repertoire. And we all know that looking for new pieces is always a pain, because we're also, okay, we're sticking to the classics, let's call them, but at the same time we are looking for something new, and you never know what's new. And I walked up to her, asked a couple of questions if they were also, thinking about expanding the project somewhere else in some other direction. Showed them another attempt at doing such a database for accordion, done by Vincent Lermet and Fanny Vincents, for example, which was first very important for us because it collected all of the works for accordion. But at the same time, yeah, and then I asked if there would license. So, long story short, be interested in what the other person is doing and not focus exclusively on what you have to kind of offer. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
main takeaway in terms of networking. Yeah.
Yeah, and just an excellent point that you make about keep it short and it's just one touch point and your entire thing doesn't hinge on that one conversation. Absolutely. You're just making a connection. You're going to follow up on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, send a thank you message the week after. And then now you've got them on your social so you like and get engaged with their content. They're going to stay you're going to stay on their mind. Yeah, it's just that initial foot in the door. I think a lot of people overlook. And I just want to share like my all-time strategy that I don't know if anyone else really did at this conference, but it served me so well. So Classical Next was reposting every single story that anyone. So imagine there are 1,500 people at this conference. Everyone's taking stories on Instagram and tagging Classical Next. Classical Next is reposting all these stories. So every single day, I went through all of their stories and I would click on the person's account and I liked their last 7 posts. And I did that for every story. So probably I did it to 100 people where I liked their last 7 posts. So then when I was introducing myself in person, Michelle, the fearless artist, they're like, "Oh, I've seen that name." I'm like, "Yes, you have, because I was stalking your Instagram." And if you want to try to get brand awareness, brand visibility, and get that name on people's minds, you show up on their socials and then you introduce yourself. That's 2 touch points. And then they already have some context of who you are. And then people have heard about my presentation. And then they have the tote bags. And then I had business cards, which is a funny story. I got stopped at the airport. You know this story, right? I should
No.
tell it on the. Oh,
Well,
really?
what
Okay.
happened?
Well, just to finish
Exclusive of
my
the
sentence.
podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is, I was so proud of myself for using Instagram strategically to get the brand out there. So for anyone listening, like if you can give value through the socials during a conference, this is actually super smart because then people are going to have that name come to them multiple times. Anyway, I had shoved 100 business cards into my purse to get on this flight because I didn't know how many I needed. So anyway, of course, my bag gets stopped at security and I'm like, oh, what happened now? I was annoyed. I didn't sleep enough, and I hate when I forget like a juice in my bag or something because I fly so
Mhm.
much. I should have this down by now, right? So he's like, excuse me, ma'am, I need to look at what all these cards are. So I was so embarrassed, and I pulled out 100 cards of my face. Just like felt so embarrassed. And then I looked at him, and I was like, I'm going to a conference to speak, And he's like, okay, sure. And then he looks at the cards and he's like, "Are you going to give a motivational speech?" And I was like, "Yeah, kind of." Like, that's actually exactly what I'm doing. And then I was like, "Do you want a card? I can give you a one-on-one." And he's like, "No, thank you, lady, but have a nice conference." It's like, okay, whatever. But
Yeah, but cool. Yeah.
yeah, it was funny. So when you can get multiple touch points with people, and then I mean, for me, the 2 days after, I'm just following up. Like I had so many people come to the sessions that you connect with for a second. Now I got to go find them on Instagram, send them my calendar link, get the one-on-one, get talking to all the people that we said, or else if you don't follow up, all of this gold is just going to fall through the cracks. And we have to make sure that we can take it to the end of what we started with everybody who's interested.
Yeah, you're very hardcore on this thing. I did something similar. I followed the accounts that interested me, so
Okay.
that afterwards I would connect. Well, I give it a little bit more time because it was so crazy. 4 days of, like from 10 in the morning until midnight and all the performances and so on. So in my case, I think, well, with the people with whom I talked a lot during this conference, I sent them a message today, for example, saying, "Oh, I hope your flight went well, and great getting to know you. Maybe we will meet around and so on." I actually wrote to you today as well, and that's when you're
Yes.
like, "Oh, let's
Thank
do
you.
this."
Thank you for writing me because now we're doing this podcast today. That was very
Yeah,
good,
yeah,
very
yeah.
strategic of
So
you.
no, definitely. And do you ever, to put you in the hot seat, do you ever feel, well, not overwhelmed, but kind of like this FOMO sensation with Instagram, where like, okay, I need this, in the next 2 days, or do this thing, otherwise the contact, the moment is gone. Like, do you have that, and how do you cope with that?
That's interesting. I mean, I FOMO all the time. like at this conference, I had FOMO because what you're saying, these simultaneous sessions, and like you can only choose one, and then also there's 100 people or 1,000 people you want to try and talk to. Okay, so my strategy for this I learned from the tech bros. Okay, so
Mm,
all the tech bros had a giant QR code on their slides. So anyone sitting in the movie theater could hold their phone up and they scan the screen and then boom, they're on the mailing list. That is the smartest thing ever. I didn't know my slides were going to be on the movie screen when I prepared for this conference. So I just had to DM me the word golden on Instagram and we'll send you our free PDF. And that's how we build
hmm
our mailing list. But I think I had like 5 people DM me golden out of like 45. So that didn't really work. So I was like, okay, next time I'm going to get that QR code on the screen. Then I tried to jot down on the train home all the names of the people I remembered who were in my sessions because I did have a lot of great conversations with people where I was like visually, mentally remembering the room, like because I tried to talk to every single person and then at least send them like the hey, thanks so much for coming to my session message. And I think I've still missed quite a few. And then now I'm at the point where like I've offered them all like their free one-on-one. Some people have booked in, some people haven't. So there's like a lot of juggling with that. So I don't know. In terms of FOMO, it's kind of just like I know that the people who need our message will come because like we can
Sure.
serve them. And I also know that we're not for everyone. So like I'm just letting that go as well. But you just don't want to lose all the work that you put in, especially when like TFA, we've been going for 5 years. So to have the potential opportunity to meet so many people quickly and to scale, like that's what
Hmm
we've been really working on. And we've got like systems in place. I have a staff now. We've been working so hard to be ready to make major impact. I mean, I'm doing this podcast every week to make impact. So I've been working with my business coach a lot. Like you got to make sure that your system is ready for the people to come in, or else if people come in and your back end is messy, like you're not organized or you're losing names or you can't keep track of things or finances, like right now Deanna's on mat leave, so there's a lot more on my
hmm
plate, which I think I'm handling in a pretty good way, but like still I'm like, I'm writing a lot of things down and I'm sure I've dropped a few balls, but yeah, I would say that's just I'm trying to catch everything but also letting go and knowing like sometimes, for example, like I met this wonderful woman from Paris and we had a great conversation and she wants to get in some coaching with me. And then I went to DM her and I saw that we had DM'd her in 2022 and then nothing
hmm
had happened from that conversation. So I
Yeah.
understand that like some of these things are really long term and just because someone says no now, and this is so good for anyone also pitching concert promoters, just because they say now for 2020, 24, 25 season doesn't mean that you won't get booked by them in 2 years because they remember you. They remember your project. They know that you're a great artist. There just wasn't room for you this season or funding or insert whatever reason. It wasn't personal. So this is so important why we play this long game and
hmm
keep putting in the work and keep showing up and being consistent and showing our faces at these conferences. I mean, I really like your goal of like 2 events a year. I think that's really smart.
Well, I think, well, I started with two also, for, let's call them, for tax reasons. Why not invest into my own career and then just make it as a tax deductible in the end? So quite
It's a
selfishly,
win-win.
it's better that this money serves me than the tax offices of the different countries where I work. But yeah, on the point, well, for all of your listeners who hear you talking about these things, don't get scared or overwhelmed because you hear Michelle juggling all of these thousands of balls in the air at the same time while doing a lot of many things. Start small. It's not like for Michelle it came overnight, right? Like you worked towards that, you learned, and you upgraded your systems and your kind of your strategies as well. So one very smart thing that you mentioned, and I think that's really noteworthy, is, for example, the business cards, right? When you get them, try to get a chance of, I don't know, 5 minutes after the interaction, or in the evening, at night, write something on the business card, or even
Yes.
better, scan it and write a note somewhere. We talked about this or we talked about that, because the next day I'm pretty sure more than half of the information is already gone, you know? So if you manage to write something there, like for example, I talk to many people and I use HubSpot, for example, for my database, which is
Okay.
amazing. And there I can also include the different notes or also put a reminder. Oh, we said we will call each other on the 20th. Remind me to call this person on the 20th. And then I write in the notes what we should be talking about. So yeah, and just building this relationship, building this follow up. It's not. Uh, there was an Italian guy who asked me, "Oh, but may I ask you, do you continue to write to people after they said no, or maybe after they didn't reply?" I'm like, "Sure, as long as they don't tell me, as long as it's not every day, and as long as it's not aggressive and kind of wanting something from them, and they don't tell me stop, I will continue this conversation and
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, I saw that you're doing this. Amazing. I actually met this person there and we were thinking about this," or whatever, but just keep this conversation and this relationship going. Otherwise, of course, it's like if we hear each other in April 2025 and then you say, "Oh, I'm sorry, there was no space," or whatever. And then I contact you again in February 2026 telling you, "Oh, I have this concert proposal." I mean, put yourself in their shoes. How would you feel if a person doesn't contact you for any other reason except for pitching you their project? I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Well, it happens to me a lot
yeah.
as a concert artistic director. Yes.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly. So you're like, okay, I need to filter out who are the people that really want a relationship with me, also a professional relationship to help me out to create a concert series or a festival or whatever, or a project, and who are the ones who are simply, sending emails, just like hundreds of neutral emails.
Yeah, no, writing down on the business card is a super idea. I've got the stack of business cards on my kitchen table right beside the unpaid speeding tickets that I have to deal with. So I'm avoiding a few things right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff happening all the time. There's no one week without which I need to kind of deal with something. It's either
Okay.
insurance or whatever.
No, but to your point about building, I just want to say yes, we absolutely built the Fearless Artist as we go. So as everything got bigger, I mean, at one point I remember our membership was at 4 people. So we were like, do we scrap the membership? What are we doing with this? We weren't making any money. We weren't paying ourselves. I mean, Deanna and I talked about that in a previous episode. So definitely building as you go, seeing how things are needed, but just recognizing the potential opportunity. Like when you have a conference like this, when you have this much visibility, when you're able to be introduced to a large amount of people at once. I mean, I was also taught early on to have a clear vision and think 3 times bigger because we're often holding ourselves back and being our own ceiling. So currently I have 40 in the membership. So what does it look like if there's 120 people who are coming on? Okay, then I'm going to need more calls. Then I'm going to do monthly trainings. Then I'm going to make sure that I've got facilitators in the community besides me helping out. So I've got these plans of like how to sustainably grow. So for
Hmm.
anybody listening too, just like trying to think 3 times bigger, having a clear vision. What is the reason that we're doing these things? What's the ideal career? I mean, these are also things that we discuss in the mastermind. I'm like
I mean,
preaching
we
now. I
can
got
talk for
excited.
hours. No, we can talk for hours about this. And yes, think big, but then make it into smaller steps. Do it into
Yeah, it's like
yearly,
think
monthly,
macro, but
weekly, daily. Yes,
yeah, act micro, think macro. You know what? I was already thinking I need to have you back for part 2. So let's do that because this has been
sure.
super helpful.
Then
Is there
this has
anything
been
else
fun.
from the conference that stuck out to you? Like any other thing that we didn't touch today?
Well, I think that more than the conferences themselves, I think it's more the people that you
Mm-hmm.
meet, because let's say that they are all about innovation, at least at this conference. And to the point of conferences, there are masterclasses, webinars, also free ones happening all the time. So if your budget doesn't allow you at the moment to do that, look in your area, because there might be some meeting somewhere or some, I don't know, evening of networking, and just, or if you know a local bar where musicians or like students or whatever go there, just,
Yeah,
go maybe with a friend if you feel intimidated in the beginning, and
yeah,
just try to visit these places, because being there, it's already being inside on that radar. So yeah, about innovation, but I was talking about this with a colleague. Of course, we're very hardcore contemporary music performers, because we're like on the forefront of most, probably newest, not to ring my own bell or to sound like very elevated or whatever, but it's true. Like we are always in touch with what's happening in the newest trends in music. And for me, for example, the innovation part in of the performances was not that much innovative, not that much boundary pushing, but perhaps it's also that I'm spoiled by all of his experiences. Because of course, if we talk about innovation and somebody presents a piece by Philip Glass with a recorded poem or a transcription of Arvo Pärt's, which I love his music, but a transcription of Arvo Pärt's Chartres from violin and piano, just on piano solo. I mean, maybe for the mainstream classical world, that's a step forward. For me, it's maybe an inch forward, but
Mm.
you know, that's me. I don't want to be too critical about that. All in all, I think it's more about the people. I've also had some other cool experiences, which I will talk about. Did you try the VR Philharmonic
No, I missed
experience,
that, but I saw that was pretty cool. Did
Michelle?
you were you in there?
Yes.
Oh no, no! Don't make me feel bad about that.
No, but that's one of those experiences that was worth it because it's like really. I would build a room. I would invest 3,000 euros just to have that room with that system there and to experience being on
Just
stage with
explain
the
what it is
musicians
for
and well
for.
basically you're being seated inside you're circled by this loudspeakers, very high quality, and you put on a VR headset. And when the experience starts, basically you're sitting and you start seeing the conductor in front of you. Then you turn around, you look all over the place, and you see 360 the hall as you would be sitting inside the orchestra. Then at one point, we were flying because it was like Finland or whatever, so images from flakes from Finland, nature. Then it turned back to I was sitting next to the percussionist. So, I mean, in 2020, 21, when everyone was doing online concerts, I was thinking about this a lot because online concerts or online experiences in music, I think, make only sense when the analog, so the live performance, cannot deliver that. So
Mm,
VR, being on stage with the musicians, and also all of this super high quality uh, sound coming at you,
mm,
that's a product that I think has a why, and that's a product that makes sense because it will not that it substitutes, but it goes parallel, to the live performances because live performances or online concerts, as much as I love online concerts, my preference goes to live events always. But in this case, for example, I would imagine, yeah, having such a system at my home and just instead of, watching a YouTube video of a symphony, feeling myself inside the orchestra and just looking around and yeah.
wow, that's cool. I mean, I hope that they have that again next year if I go back. Are you planning to go back to next year?
I'm still not sure. I need
Okay.
to see the schedule, but yeah, no, no, it was very interesting, but I still need to think about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's in Budapest, so I've never been to Budapest. So I mean,
It's a
yeah,
very nice city, so
depending on the dates and what's happening, I would definitely be.
just go because Budapest is worth it. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Great. I'll get the dates in
absolutely.
my diary. I already told my assistant Puck that I want her to come with me. So cool. Gennady, thank you so much. How can people find you, follow you, your podcast, Everything Accordion? Definitely go tune into that and on Instagram.
Yeah, well, Michelle, thanks a lot again for the invitation. It has been fun talking to you, and I feel that we can talk also for hours about different topics. We're on the same wavelength in
Yes,
terms of
we are. Totally.
strategy and marketing and networking and so on. So you can find me on my website, GennadiRotari.com. I know it's not very easy, my name, but Michelle will link this in the description. And
Easy.
you can find my Instagram accounts, Gennady Rotari, accordionist, and also separately Everything Accordion podcast. So, yeah, you can find my music on all the streaming platforms, the podcast, the blog on my website. You can read, I have also some educational materials, some spreadsheets to help you with your budgeting and taxes, free for download. So, yeah, and reach out
Wow.
if you have any questions. And I also offer a free coffee bookable on my website. So if you want to talk about anything, just book a session.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm definitely going to go check out your blog. I'm already seeing setting goals in 2025, what worked last year, and future improvements. I love it. Thank you so much. This has been great. Looking forward to chatting and hopefully seeing you again in the future. And yeah, thanks for all your conversation today.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. It has been fun.